Hello you guys and welcome to Nita's Fluid Woodworks. I'm Nita and today we're going to build this bathroom vanity. So we're going to start off with the slab. I made the template and I went through a couple pieces of wood to find the perfect one and finally stumbled across this one I had stuffed in the back of my shop. And it fit more so what I was envisioning for this project than anything else. So I'm just cutting everything to a rough size so that way I can flatten it out and move on to the next step. So just cutting it down so it's easier to manage. This was the beginning of my pregnancy, so you see me like with a little bump and stuff. All right, so this is everything that I use in here is going to be linked down in the description. What you're going to do is just cut everything down to a rough size, just so that way when you're flattening and debarking and stuff like that, you're not just doing it and you're not going to use the wood. So make sure you get all of the bark and anything between the actual slab and the resin out. That is so important for this. So you're just going to see me cleaning this up and cutting it down. Okay, so once everything fits into the frame or the mold that I had made, now I've got to pull everything back. Like that live edge right there, it just overlaps a little bit and that's not going to work for this project. So I'm just going to get the general layout of what I want this to look like. It's easier for me to make the frame and show the client because it's really hard for them to see what I'm envisioning unless I do this. So this I found is just a really easy way for them to see what I see. All right, so I'm just going to pull everything back, pull the live edge back, and then I'll shape it and create a faux live edge, a faux live edge. I'll show you how to do that. I do have a video that shows how to get the faux live edge as well. This one's going to show you just a little bit of what I did with the shaping and the coloring and everything like that. So okay, so these are called spider blades. They're jigsaw blades. They're a variety pack. Let me show you them though. Let me show you. So in this package, you're going to find a double-sided blade. And this allows you to do 90-degree angles. So that blade right there I used to cut the angles on here. It was just really easy to go forwards and backwards and not be limited with what I could do with the jigsaw. Here you're going to see me flattening everything out. This is really important so you don't waste a lot of resin underneath of your slabs. Thank you, baby. Sorry, that's my daughter, Imani. If you follow me, you know who she is. So yes, flatten the bottoms and the tops, shim everything up. So that way there's no wiggle or nothing like that. If you don't know how to flatten a slab, then I have a YouTube video I will link right above, like right in the upper right hand corner. Yeah. And it'll show you how to flatten slabs. So get it all flat. All right, now this is going to be the sink hole. This is the hole for the sink. So I'm just using 1x2s right here, tacking them together with a nail gun. I see a lot of people just do a lot of crazy stuff to make their frames and their molds, and it doesn't take a lot. Like, as long as you have some kind of tape or a surface that does not stick to resin, which is like shipping tape, tuck tape, something like that, then you'll be fine. So I'm just going to cut out the area for the sinkhole. And that's what I'm doing right here, is measuring everything. All right, so here we're just going to cut the sinkhole out. This is, I cut this a little bit smaller than what it had to be so that way I could use a flush trim router bit and just kind of flush everything up. And I knew that I wouldn't be cutting it too close. This right here is, it goes on your angle grinder, and it is freaking amazing. As you can see here, it like cuts through wood like a breeze. I'm gonna link this down in the description. It is so nice. Like, this is how people carve wood, like that power carving and stuff like that. This is awesome. Love that. And it makes everything super easy. It's dirty as hell, but it makes it super easy. So here I'm just going to shape the live edge. I'm going to shape it to make it look like what I want. Okay, so I'm taking stain right here just to kind of replicate and blend what the live edge would look like. Seeing that I pulled it back, you know, cut it back and cut it to size, I still wanted the effect of the live edge. So this is how I accomplished that. And it actually turned out really nice. I used two different stains. I used the really dark, which was like ebony, or no, that was black. I used a really dark one. I'll link them down below. And then I used like a honey color, and it just turned out so pretty. So you'll see in the next one. I put the dark in there, and then I sanded it away so that way it would be in the crevices and stuff. And then I put this lighter color on there just to replicate that live edge, and it actually looked really good in the end. So give it a little bit of time to dry, and then you can move on to your next steps. Okay, so once you have everything ready to go and you are positive you're ready to pour, this is where I just add my tape. If you're using HDPE, you don't need tape. You can use a mold release. If you're using the silicone stuff, you can use a mold release, or you don't have to use anything. Here I used 2x4s. It was an awkward shape, and 2x4s and 1x2s worked. Like, it works. It does not have to be like over and beyond what you need. Like, this is sufficient. As long as it has that layer of the tape between the resin and the wood, nothing's gonna stick together. So I'm gonna link this tape down in the description, but I'm also gonna link, and this is tuck tape. It is a sheathing tape. I'm also gonna link, it's a duct tape. It's a shipping tape, and it's made by the Duct Tape Company. And I can get like 6 to 8 rolls of that for the price of 1 roll of tuck tape. I used the shipping tape for about the first year and a few months. I used it for my pours and stuff. Once my business took off the way that it did, I've been using tuck tape ever since. So I just, yeah. Okay, so caulk the undersides of your mold. Caulk the undersides of your frame. This is going to stop epoxy from leaking out of your pour. So put that line into the bottom, like onto the bottom. I add a little bit of weight just to be sure that there's a good seal. So once I flip it over, I'll add a little bit of weight just to be sure that it is sealed and it's good. And then I'll go around the insides and outsides again. Now, the reason that I put the wood in before I put the before I caulked the frame and everything is because it was moving and not allowing for 90-degree angles. So putting the wood in there made it stay still enough to be the shape that I needed it to be. Sorry, that was baby girl. Okay, so make your seals. Make the seals with your finger. This is going to give you extra added insurance. This is like life insurance. So go around the whole outside and inside of your piece. I use 100% silicone caulk. I will link that in the description as well. And here I am putting in clear resin. This is going to be the foundation to my pours. You'll see where this is going. I showed a picture in the beginning of the video, but you'll see where this is going in a second. So I just put a layer of clear resin down. This is Tabletop resin by Total Boat. Everything's going to be linked down below. The reason that I used this resin is because it doesn't take a long time to cure. Like, I can come back in about 12 hours and start my next layer. And timing was important. It is important when you are trying to run a business. So I added the clear resin in the bottom, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so people always ask me, why a torch, why a heat gun? I use a torch to pop bubbles. I use a heat gun to add effects in my resin, such as waves or to improve swipes and cells. And that is the purpose of a heat gun and a torch for me. Okay, so I am adding a beach. They want a whole little town here. Like, not town, but like a whole water scene. So here I am adding sand. I will actually add the links to the sand and stuff below as well. I'm mixing resin and sand. I'm just kind of just trying to get the right consistency that I want. So this is going to be added into partial area of this. So what they want is they go on these trips and they wanted something to like remind them of that. They wanted their names engraved in this or like written in the sand, which I tried to do and it did not work. They wanted footprints in the sand, and with the epoxy and with the setting, it was either too wet or too tacky, and it just did not work. Like, I tried so hard. I tried everything. It just did not work. But I'll show you what I did instead. And it turned out they loved it. Okay, so here I took like a wetter consistency, and this just kind of made it like fall into where I wanted the water. So like I said, I try to get like the most realistic effects that I can. And being from Florida, I kind of just take into mind what I experienced on the water myself. Okay, so they wanted this dock in there. I'll show you the other things like little hermit crabs and this campfire. And this is where I tried to put the names in the sand, and it looked horrible. Like, so bad. That was a no-go. I did end up writing them behind the campfire on that wall of that live edge, that wall right there. All right, so here we're going to do our waves. This is our first layer of waves. What I'm doing is I'm just mixing up a few different blues. I like to use 3 blues for my oceans. I used a teal color, like a turquoise color. I use a dark turquoise, and then I use candy blue. And this represents like the different depths of the water. So like shallow water, kind of deep water, and then deep, deep water, which is dark. So this gives it the most realistic effects that I've seen. Okay, so once you have your blues in there mixed, once you have your blues in there poured, I'm going to pop the bubbles, and then I'm going to kind of like blend them together. All right, so here I'm just taking my mixing stick, my paint stick, and I'm just kind of blending them together. I'm going to pop the bubbles and use my heat gun just to do it just a tad more. Okay, so here I'm doing my second layer, and this is going to be waves. This is going to be the added, like the movement. This is going to put the movement into the piece. So as you see, I'm doing clear, and I'm just putting some clear resin over top of the random driftwood and stones. And here is a tinted blue. I like to tint the blues because it just adds depth, and it makes the like, you see how I made the turtles and the sharks and the shells look like they're under the water. So I want it to look realistic. The white that I'm using here is Cast and Craft. I will leave it down below under white pigment. This is what I like to use for my cells and my lacing. It is usually 1 of 2, and this is the one that I used. So as you can see here, the resin did come up where that driftwood was. I didn't build the sand up enough right there. And yeah, I had to add more sand to it after, but it ended up looking nice. So I'm pushing the waves back with the heat gun, and then I'm going to take the torch to it and give it the cells and the lacing. So this is the first layer. Now, using a torch after pushing it where you want it, this adds cells and lacing. If you don't know how to make cells and lacing, I have a video called Battle of the Cells, And I'm actually working on one right now that shows you how to get the most out of your like products. So I got you. I got you on that. I will link Battle of the Cells up in the right hand corner and in the description, so that way you can head over to that. It shows all of the different white pigments that you can use, as far as like acrylic paint or spray paint or alcohol or silicone oil and like all these things. It just shows you how to get different effects, lacing effects, it just cells. Like it's pretty cool. I think I used 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think I used 9 or 10 different products, and I put them up against each other to see what looks like what looks best. And in all honesty, it just depends on the effect and the look that you're going for to determine what you're going to use. But it's a really good reference to look back to. Okay, so now we're just going to fill it up with resin. I'm going to have to do 2 layers, but this is just the first layer of resin. This is a casting resin. It is a thick pour. I use Incredible Solutions. I love their resin. It's just what I like. I've tried so many different ones, and 90% of my pours are transparent. They're clear. There's rocks. There's all kinds of stuff inside of my tables and countertops and wall arts and charcuterie boards, but this gives me the clearest results that I have had thus far. I have tried a lot of different stuff, but this gives me superior results. I am an affiliate for them, and if you want 10% off of your epoxy order, this is the coupon you use. And I will put the link right in the description. So it's a 10% off coupon, man. You cannot go wrong with that. I always use other people's coupons. So if you have a coupon and you want me to use your coupon, just put it down in the comments. All right, so pour it out. I did cut it close using the 1x2s for the sinkhole, but it worked. Okay, so here I'm going to show you something. You see those 3, 4, 5 bubbles? I left town and I did not come back until the resin was cured. So those bubbles right there, once you put the resin and pour that next layer of resin, that's why I did the second layer, you cannot even tell that those were there. Like, just get the air out and I'll show you the finished piece. You cannot even tell those were there. I'm going to do a video that shows how to do that though. So after you take it out of the mold, you flatten it. And here I'm making the template for the sinkhole. I'm just using MDF. I think it's 1/2 inch MDF. I'm using it for the sinkhole. And then I'm going to use the flush trim router bit. And the reason that I'm making a template out of this and not just going for it head on is because it is so much easier to sand down MDF than it is the wood. Like, it's so much easier. So it's a time saver. Spend time on this and it's so much easier to sand, and then just take your router to the other one. So there you go. All right, so once I have my template made, I need to, because I said that I made this, I cut the sinkhole, or I left the sinkhole smaller than what it needed to be. So now I am marking where that template needs to go. So that way the sink can set right where it needs to, because all of their plumbing was done already. All right, so now that I have the placing of the template, I can move on to the next step. I'm using double-sided tape here. I don't recommend using this kind. It wasn't horrible, but I still had to clamp it down. I don't know if I had to or if I just did it because I was scared. I spent so much time on this and I did not want it to mess up. So, like I said, extra insurance, that's what I did it for. That's what I do it for. All right, so double-sided tape, get the template down, and then I'm going to router it out with the flush trim router bit. I love this bit. I'm going to link it down below. I love this bit. It's one of those mega trim flush bits. It's amazing. You'll see. That thing is packed with power. All right, so here I'm just going to use the flush trim router bit, but I realized that I was trying to take off too much. So I did stop and started using a different bit. super messy, but so, like, the satisfaction that you get from this is huge. All right, so if you haven't already, I'm going to take this time. If you made it to this point, I'm going to take this time, ask that you like and please subscribe to this video if you're getting anything out of it. I am working on putting out a lot more content. I have a lot of content already recorded. I just have to get it up. So with the baby coming right now, it's gonna happen. Like, it's coming. All right, so we're just gonna round over all of the edges. Everything's cut down to size. Everything is where it needs to be. So now you round over your edges because this is gonna get an epoxy finish. And when you round over your edges, it allows for the epoxy to just roll over the edge and under the bottom, and that reduces surface tension, and it just gives you an altogether better finish. So round over all your edges, top and bottom. Okay, so now we're gonna sand. I start at 80 and I go up to 220. You're gonna sand the sides, you're gonna sand the top, you're gonna sand the bottom. I usually wait to the bottom until after I do my epoxy finish. And the reason being is because why do it twice? You're going to have to get the drips off and do it again. So I just do the top and the sides, make sure the edges are rounded, and that's it. So 80 to 220. Okay, so for the corners, like those rounded corners in there, I love this sander. I will link it down in the description. It's an oscillating sander. It's got different connections for the different widths of like the curve that you're trying to sand. Also, this workbench is a workbench. I will link this in the description. It's awesome when you're debarking your live edges. Just all together, these two things are lifesavers. Like, seriously, I love these two. The workbench, like that little bench, it's a fold out, and those clamps right there, they save so much time. So I will link both of these in the description. All right, so we are doing an epoxy finish, and in order to do an epoxy finish, you have to do 2 seal coats, about 2 to 3 seal coats, and a flood coat. So this is the first seal coat, and if you sand up to 220, make sure you clean it off with isopropyl alcohol, so that way there's no residue or anything on the top and everything is completely transparent. So you're just gonna put on, if you don't know how to do an epoxy finish, I have a video that shows how to get a flawless epoxy finish, and I will link it up top in the corner right here right now, and I highly suggest to watch that video. It's super, super easy. People make it hard. So, yep, for seal coat, I'm not going to show the rest of them. And I will show you next how to do the bottom of the table. So here, I just basically wanted to make sure that the sink ring fit after doing the flood coats, because that does bring it in just a little bit more. But everything fit perfectly. I just got to finish the bottom up and put a hard oil finish on the bottom, and it'll be done and ready to go out to its new home. So here's a little peek at what she looks like. And those streak marks and stuff, that's just from me wiping the dust off with a rag that wasn't clean. So once you take some Windex to it, it's gonna look flawless. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to flip it over. Now for this one, I made sure that there was epoxy covering the whole surface of the bottom, which means that I let epoxy go underneath for a reason. And the reason of that is because this is going to be a bathroom sink. And if there's a leak of water anywhere, I want to be sure that it will not get to the wood and this piece will last as long as possible. So all I'm going to show you what to do is get these drips off, sand it, and then I'll put an oil finish, just as if I was going to do it if it was wood. But this is all epoxy, okay? So let's go. And the flap disc, this is what it is. It's a little dirty right now, but that's what it is. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get these drips off of the bottom, okay? All right, so you take your angle grinder and your flap disc, and you don't like gouge into the surface. You just get the drips off and try to make it about as level as you can. This is going to prevent your sander pad, like your sanding pad, your orbital sander or whatever sander you're using, to be damaged, and just make things altogether smoother. Then I'm going to sand the bottom. I'm going to do 80 to about 150 and do a hard oil finish. I'm using Odie's oil. I love this oil. It only looks prettier and prettier over time. This is my go-to, this and Rubio Monocoat as far as oil finishes go. So yeah, Odie's oil. I love that stuff. Okay, so that's it. This is the way that you finish the bottom of an epoxy piece. All right, so here she is, finished product. Heading out to the new clients here. Turned out to be a beautiful piece. I put everything that they sent me in there. They sent all of these little shells and rocks and turtles and